developers and conservationists, and the Native American tribes and all the governments. Everybody got together and they came up with a plan. I signed an executive order, and 3 years later we passed the bill. The federal government's put up $300 million out of that bill, and all the other stakeholders have put up twice that. And Lake Tahoe was saved. Why? Because we did it the old-fashioned American way. We got out of whining, we got out of attacks, we got out of divisive politics. Everybody sat down and said, we've got a prize and a problem. That's the way America is today. We got prizes and problems. And we're going to beat back the problem and preserve the prize. We didn't whine, we didn't fight, we didn't turn each other into two-dimensional cartoons. We rolled up our sleeves, got back in the solutions business, got the show on the road, and it's one of the great success stories in America. That's the way this country is. That's the way this whole country is run. I'm grateful that I can do this work I do at home and around the world. I'm grateful that Bill Gates does it. He's got lots more money than I do. But the truth is that all we can ever do is sort of fill in the gaps. If you don't have good government and good leadership, pointing the way toward the future, constantly making positive change, there will be constantly fighting a rearguard action. There are lots of reasons that I think that Hillary's the best qualified person. Let me stop and say, I really like this Democratic field because I don't have to be against anybody. How many elections have you been in where you said, oh my God, I got to hold my nose and vote for this one? So I like them all. Even the ones that aren't supposed to be doing so well in the polls, you know, Senators Dodge, Senator Biden, Governor Richardson, these people have rendered enormous service to our country. They deserve our respect. This is a happy election. We just have to elect the person we think will be the best president. And here's why. Here's why. When this next election's over, if we're not out of Iraq, we've got to get out. We've got to draw our combat forces. But we've got to try to do it in a way that minimizes our casualties on the way out, minimizes the people that get killed after we're gone, maximizes the chance that the Iraqis work together, and puts maximum pressure on the neighbors to keep from getting millions of refugees in their countries. That's why the Iranians and the Syrians want to talk to us now. You need somebody that knows how to do this. Then we're going to have to rebuild the American military because we have basically overstressed all of our ground forces, including the Guard and Reserve. And there are probably a lot of Guard and Reserve families in this audience. We have a serious problem. You know, let me just tell you, we have, Hillary and I do, a fine young man who runs our home for us because we're all gone so much. He was in the White House mess, an enlisted Navy man who was a Navy cook. So he retired and he went into the Naval Reserves. You know what he does on weekends now? Target practice. He's practicing infantry stuff. You know what he did his summer detail this 2 weeks? They dropped him in the woods with two 12-man teams, and they competed against each other in 2 weeks of guerrilla warfare. A Navy cook. Why is the military doing this? Because we have no ground forces if we face a serious, unforeseen crisis. So yes, we have to get out of Iraq just to preserve the fundamentals of the military, but you need to have somebody who knows how to put this thing back together again while strengthening our presence in Afghanistan so we don't lose a moderate Muslim democracy and we can keep fighting Al-Qaeda. Is the only senator from New York who has ever served on the Armed Services Committee. And I can't tell you the number of military officers who told me she was the most knowledgeable person in the Senate and either party on the military affairs. Second thing is, we've got to restore America's standing in the world. Iraq has proved that in an interdependent world, you cannot kill, jail, or occupy all your enemies. You can't push everybody around. You've got to have more friends and fewer enemies. It matters. This may be the first election in my lifetime where a substantial number of Americans will actually cast their vote based on what they think the rest of the world will think about America. And when the new president of France came in, I called the president that was going out, Mr. Chirac, and I thanked him for the work we've done. First question he says, please tell me Hillary's going to win. We don't need to dislike America anymore. We need to I talked to the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister of Singapore, now they're senior minister. He's much more conservative than the President of France. So it was the second question he asked me. Please tell me your wife's going to win. The world needs to be with America again. I just got back from my annual tour of Africa. I come down here every year around Mr. Mandela's birthday to check on him and check on my projects there. I went to 4 countries. Every single political leader I talked to said, oh my goodness, I hope your wife wins. We want the world to like America again. The world You want to restore America's standing in the world overnight? So let's go. So that's the first 2 things. Here's the third reason. There's a reason that we have in America and 6 years of economic growth, anemic job growth, and flat wages, and poverty going up among people who are working.
Yep.
Also, the loss of health insurance going up among people who are working. So let's talk about the home front. We got to find a source of good new jobs in this country.
Yes.
When I was president for the first time in over 20 years, median, not average, average includes rich guys like me, median, the ones in the middle, median wages went up, and inequality went down for the last 6 years I was president. Why? Now, why? Because we created 22.7 million new jobs. We moved 100 times as many people out of poverty as had been moved out under the previous Republican administration. 100 times. And we did it because a lot of those jobs paid above average. Just take information technology. 8% of the jobs, 28% of the job growth, 33% of the wage growth. That's what you have to do. They haven't done this. And you know why? Because this country has not made a serious commitment to energy independence and a clean, efficient energy future, which has been committed to solving America. Raise our wages and reduce unemployment. Of all the candidates running for president, Hillary's plan on energy independence is by far the most detailed and the most likely to work. The next thing we got to do is we got to do something about health care. Now, we all know that there are 16% of our people without health insurance, and a lot of people are underinsured. About another 16% do without it at some point during the year. But I think it's important to recognize there are 3 problems in health care, and you can't solve one unless you address all 3. So that's problem 1.